Title: I overturned my car after wearing a rainbow. As author, Shu Winter. Copywriting: as a popular variety shows Iowa with her own talent for Tuko, Lin Luo was on the verge of being beaten every day, until one day she became a cannon fodder with the same name in the unfinished novel. The system told her that if she wanted to go back, she had no choice but to flatter the male protagonist, and to figure out how good the male protagonist was. Since then, she has become the little dog-legged secretary of the entertainment industry boss who releases rainbow farts in a fancy way, 360 degrees, 24 hours and 360 degrees. Every day, while slamming Gao Lengba's head into a fairy tale, counting the increasing favorability value every day, waiting to go home, while spitting in his heart like silver possessed. However, slowly she found that Mr. B.A. looked at her with more and more wrong eyes, and his favorability did not rise. Damn it! No one said to me that the tyrant will read the mind. Duck. Xiao Luoluo overturned the duck. Content tag: System Suite Text Where's Book Cool Text Search Keywords: Protagonist, Lin Luo Supporting Role, Ji Kai and Others, 1v1, he. 6 o'clock in the morning. Lin Luo strenuously stretched out a hand from the bed, turned off the alarm clock, and then drew back into the bed and continued to sleep. She really doesn't want to face the world after she wears the book. As soon as this thought came to my mind, a sharp beep sounded in my mind, followed by an icy mechanical voice: the host's negative attitude toward the task is detected. If this emotion is not repaired within 1 minute, the task points will be deducted. Lin Luo reluctantly opened the quilt and sighed. Unlucky system. The abuse system: deduct 10 points, the current points are 10. Lin Luo completely gave up resistance, got out of bed, stepped barefoot on the soft carpet, slender rabbit fur licked her slender white ankles, all the way to the window, opened the curtains, and the morning light squeezed so hard. Falling down on densely packed floors is the warm smell of early summer. She is accustomed to living in a villa with sea views, but she still feels uncomfortable with the old and crowded residential buildings with big pants on the anti-theft fence. Silently closed the curtains, sighed, no way, who let her wear the book? She was originally born in a wealthy family, pampered, and graduated from a prestigious school. She joined the entertainment circle on a whim. She can't sing, dance, or act, but she has a lot of resources, and she has become a popular variety show simply by virtue of her beauty and complaints. Hua Dan is extremely popular and has a very full purse. Don't be too chic. Suddenly, a book of dog-blooded and bad-ending articles became popular, and the cannon fodder female partner of this article has the same name and surname as her, and the majority of netizens cue her crazy. She couldn't help but read it, and then couldn't help sending Weibo to sigh. Come on, what a shit. Then again, she put on this thing. And this Lin Luo, not only has the same name and surname as her, but also looks exactly like her. Lin Luo looked at the face in the mirror. If it weren't for the bathroom behind him that didn't even have 20 square meters, she would not believe she would wear it. The original body was also a wealthy man, but after her father died, her mother was calculated to run a business, owed a pile of debts, and committed suicide after filing for bankruptcy. Although her property is not implicated, her mother secretly sold everything except a bank card with a 5-digit balance and a lot of luxury brand clothes, bags, and shoes. So she is very poor now. Poor and insisting on style. Clothes and bags are impossible to sell, even if they are killed, they cannot be sold. The original body is not sold, and Lin Luo will not sell it now. He only wears first-line brands and only uses first-line brands. Decent. Both the original Lin Luo and the current Lin Luo are the masters who are used to hedonistic luxury, so the original in the family is determined to marry the rich and return to the pinnacle of quality of life. For this, she did everything possible to mix into the Jiahe group and became the secretary to the president. This is why she has to get up at 6 in the morning, because she has to be in the president's office on time at 8. Lin Luo neatly put on a delicate and decent light makeup, picked a light pink suit skirt, and tied her long jet black hair meticulously behind her head. Her beauty is a bit aggressive, with her small pointed chin and phoenix eyes, charming but not vulgar. Her skin is milky white, and light pink is the color of a very picky complexion. It is easy to look dark and fat, but she wears it on her body to be more crystal clear. The superior tailoring pinched her waistline and outlined the right curve of the upper circumference. Her legs were straight and slender, well-proportioned and fair, and her ankles were extraordinarily delicate, with a faint cyan color, which looked fragile and fragile. It stands to reason that with this appearance, figure, and education, it is not difficult to marry a wealthy family, but she has chosen the most unprovoked Jikayan in the capital. Still not taking the usual path, putting a good Cinderella silk flower improperly, having to set up a shankai, all kinds of contradicting the male protagonist and embarrassing the male protagonist, just waiting to hear one sentence, "Woman, you caught my attention." It's a pity that the heroine's life and children are worthy of life, and finally the heroine is a bitch, and the end is miserable. According to the system, the point in time she passed through was the point where the plot began to collapse, which is why this article was unfinished. What she needed to do was repair the storyline, complete the mission, and return to the original world. Lin Luo felt that even for her Seaview villa and 5 cloakrooms, she had to wear it back. Thinking of this, Lin Luo worshipped the Buddha statue in the living room devoutly. "Buddha is here." Believer girl Lin Luo said anything nonsense today with open eyes. "Don't blame me, don't let me go to hell. It's all for the sake of life, and I was forced to do nothing. Please, the host believes in science, don't be superstitious." Friendly reminds the host, "Please adjust your status as soon as possible and prepare for the mission." Line horn. Lin Luo's task of wearing the book this time is to get 999 points of favor from the male lead Ji Qian. Judging from the tragic ending of the original body, this overlord obviously does not like others to do it against him. Domineering and narcissistic, indifferent and self-righteous, arrogant and unreasonable. So if you want to capture his favorability, you can only follow the hair and slap him crazily, to please him, in order to survive. Lin Luo, who had never been able to tell the truth but never saw the expressions of others, felt a little unsure. But isn't it just a rainbow fart? The Chinese language is extensive and profound. Since she can gain a foothold in the talk show world, give her a Ji Qian, and she will be able to tout a rainbow kingdom, and she will not be troubled. Thinking of this, I went out arrogantly, carrying Hermes on my back, wearing Chanel couture, stepping on CL Red's OLED shoes, walking down the corridor of the long-established rental room with only voice-controlled lights, and then stepped onto her little electric donkey, rushing fast. Go to Jiahe Group. Even if I rode a small electric donkey, Lin Luo is the most beautiful cub in Beijing. The Jiahe Group's building is located in the most prosperous and high-end CBD in Beijing. The entire 52-story building is entirely his own. It has luxurious appearance and luxurious decoration. In a word, it is a trench. Lin Luo is not surprised at all. The boss is only equipped as standard. There is no bed of 500 square meters. There is no need to take a taxi from the president's office to the finance department. It is too common, and there is still a gap between the top partner Jack Su. It is nothing to fuss about. So emboldened and headed straight to the 52nd floor secretary room. Although the secretary room is a room, it is actually a semi-open space surrounded by a glass wall outside the president's office, which is convenient for the president to send at any time. Lin Luo was half an hour earlier than work hours, and after sitting down, he began to look through the documents on the seat, trying to integrate the information with the original memory to avoid errors. When she was looking seriously, the door rang suddenly, she was caught off guard, and the folder fell in a graceful arc next to a pair of expensive leather shoes. Lin Luo hurriedly bent over and picked it up. As he got up, he looked up along the pair of shoes, with straight long legs, suddenly tightened waist, and unbuttoned 2 buttoned white shirts, revealing clavicle and long neck, as well as a raised Adam's apple full of male hormones. Then, the Adam's apple rolled, and a low and magnetic male voice came from above his head, "You, come in." Somewhat dumb, together with the gently rolling throat, revealed a certain sexiness after indulgence, so that Lin Luo couldn't help but refuse when he heard this. "What, the president, the first meeting in the morning, it was so exciting." "Not great, I'm really not that kind of person." "Okay, President G." Lin Go Tai Zi Luo raised his head to show a professional smirk, and met the man's eyes. The author has something to say. P.S. 1. The master's mind-reading technique has always been available, but it is controllable. At first, she was not interested in using it with the heroine. When the master was blown to the sky, the heroine was really fragrant, and the heroine overturned. 2. The heroine may kisu, the system provides golden fingers, and the logic is sacrificed to Su Shuangtian 3. The male protagonist and the original female protagonist have never been together from beginning to end, nor have a good relationship between men and women, which is why the original text is unfinished. 4. This article does not black the original heroine. Cute girls are worthy of being petted by cute boys, and each has its own happiness. 5. A favorite to collect is my updated power duck. The man's eyebrows are narrow, long, and deep, the bridge of his nose is tall and straight, his lips are slightly thin, and the perfect curve of his chin shows a bit of thinness. Even so, Lin Luo, who has seen many beautiful men in the entertainment industry, has to admit it, this face is impeccably handsome. He glanced at her condescendingly, "Is it you?" Then turned around and walked back. Lin Luo looked at his long and straight back and couldn't help sighing. He didn't notice from the front just now that President Ba's buttocks were so strong and round, like corgis with ostrich legs. What a fairy combination! It's no wonder that the original body has missed him, racking his brains and unscrupulous, this looks, this figure, this sense of abstinence, and wants to prostitute. Before I had time to go further, I heard him lazily say, "Come in." Lin Luo heard the words and immediately put the folder that had just dropped, adjusted his appearance, pulled out a sweet smile, got up and walked into the president's office, and closed the door. The president's office is a semicircular shape. Except for the side of the secretary room, which is the wall, the rest is surrounded by light-sensitive French windows. The floor is covered with thick carpets. Because it is too soft, the stilettos are a little shaky when stepping on it. With good professionalism, Lin Luo managed to maintain a graceful pace. Ji Qian sits on the sofa, leaning forward with two long legs, leaning on the back of the sofa, and putting one arm casually on it. His posture is lazy, and his neckline is pulled looser, because the temperament of abstinence makes people feel more tempting. Lin Luo suppressed the nasty thoughts in her heart and tried to imitate her impression of a professional secretary. "Ji, hello, what's your order?" Ji Qian stretched out his hand and pinched his eyebrows. "Make a cup of coffee." Lin Luo only noticed that there were a few empty cups stacked on the coffee table, and a suit jacket and tie on the armrest of the sofa, stained with inexplicable stains. In addition, the room is clean and tidy, and it doesn't look like it looks like after indulging in sensuality. It should be an overnight class. I can't help but slander, why, does the CEO also need to work in this era? What about dating and spoiling your wife? This broken president is too embarrassed to be the male lead? However, he was very honest. "Okay, President G, wait a minute. Ji Qian likes to drink mand Helling, no sugar, no milk, 85 degrees Celsius, not bad at one time." Lin Luo mobilized the memory in her mind and skillfully operated the coffee machine. In the original world, her father also had a large office. He often stayed up late and worked overtime. He was also very particular about coffee, so she later specialized in learning. "I just want to make him happy when I make coffee." Lin Luo looked at Ji Qian and thought of her old father. His heart was slightly acidic and he made coffee more seriously. Ji Qian, who was lazily leaning on the sofa, lifted his eyelids slightly, and glanced at Lin Luo. He was a little tired of the secretary. She was a girl who had dropped out of school in the Ivy League. She was not qualified to enter the gate of Jia, but Ji the old man and her father are old friends. Seeing that the little girl is not easy to be alone, he arranged for her to come in. He had only his grandfather as a close person, and he didn't want to disobey him, but she was restless, and she was fine looking for trouble, causing a lot of trouble. Spoiled and self-righteous, if it weren't because she was the only one, he would never find her. But when he squinted, he saw the morning sun shine through the floor-to-ceiling windows on the girl Jiao's delicate face, drawing out a layer of finely fragmented pale golden hairs, and the eyelashes were well dangling, casting a long curl on the nose. Shadows. Her hands are very slender, the back of her hands is almost transparent white, with a faint light blue color. The movements on her hands are skillful and elegant, smooth, clean, and calm. Just looking at it, inexplicably fade away his busyness one night of irritability and sleepiness. It doesn't seem to be that annoying. Lin Luo didn't notice his gaze, and cautiously held the coffee before placing it in front of him. Mr. Ji, please use it. Ji Qian picked up the cup and took a sip. The taste was unexpectedly rich, and the temperature and bitterness were just right. He couldn't help but look up at her. The coffee is brewed well today. Thank you for the compliment, President Ji. Lin Luo worked hard to burst into a shy smile that he should have after complimenting. Ji Qian couldn't help but raised his eyebrows when he saw this slightly dog-leg smile. What's wrong with this woman? Didn't you clamor with him a few days ago? Secretaries are also dignified and sturdy, and not let you rich people call them at will? Why are you so cute today? The last time. Ji Qian put the cup back on the coffee table, and there was a crisp sound. Lin Luo immediately took the conversation and said sincerely, what happened last time was my fault. I have no complaints about punishing me. I hope President Ji will not get angry. What happened last time was all in the original body. She wanted to marry Ji Qian, but Ji Qian didn't look at her directly. Instead, she took good care of the company's newly signed Xiaohui and Shu Qingqing, so she and Shu Qingqing called her sisters on the surface, and secretly stunned another named Ai Shuet. The little star stumbled upon her. As a result, Ai Shuet went overboard and tripped Shu Qingqing on the red carpet in public, causing him to suffer a minor fracture, so Ji Qian ordered her to block her. He didn't know that he would accept it when he saw it. Instead, he stopped his car under the company building, filled with righteous indignation. Ji Qian, you are high above, so you can destroy other people's dreams? Ai Shui just committed a small crime. Wrong, do you have to kill it quickly? She is only 18 years old. Righteous words, loud and sound, those who hear it weep, those who see it are sad. At that time, Ji Qian, who was sitting in the back row of Rolls-Royce looking at the information, did not look up, and only said 2 words, drive. Zhang Chen hesitated, but Secretary Lin is still standing in front. Don't worry, as long as you start the engine, she runs faster than anyone else. Okay. So he stepped down on the accelerator, and the original body was panicked. Seeing that the car was about to run over, he had to dodge in a hurry, and then plunged into the fountain in front of the company building. He was unconscious with a fever and cold, and when he woke up, he became Lin Luo. Lin Luo who cleaned up her mess. Without waiting for Ji Qian to answer, Lin Luo went on to say, General Ji is busy at work. As the secretary to the president, I should naturally fulfill all the instructions of the president, share the worries for the president, and should not make trouble. After all, the secretary of the president is the dream of thousands of girls in the entire capital. I have this honor, and I must cherish it. She was generous, whispering, and said it was true. Ji Qian raised his eyebrows, the dream of thousands of girls. Yes. Why? Because President Ji is good-looking. Lin Luo didn't change her face and her heart didn't beat. Ji Qian laughed suddenly, raised the corners of his lips slightly, and squinted the long and narrow fox eyes. because of this. Lin Luo? Shouldn't Gao Lengba's painting styles near, stupid woman, superficial? What's the matter with this look? Exactly the same as the cat owner's chin was scratched. System prompt, points +1, current points 9. Oh, stupid man, superficial. Of course President Ji is not only good looking, but also young and promising. At a young age, he sits firmly at the top of the East Asian entertainment industry. He is brilliant and outstanding, and he can learn a lot with Ji. The voice is clear and clear. Flattery, sounds very sincere. However, Ji Qian didn't buy it. He tapped his finger on the tabletop of the coffee table without a moment. He narrowed his smile and looked straight into her eyes, and said coldly, "These words are not what you should say in front of me, understand?" Lin Luo shook his heart. Did the flattering hit his horse's hoof? System prompt, points +1, current points 8. Oh, duplicity man. Don't worry, President Ji, I understand. Lin Luo said as he folded his hands on his abdomen, leaned over slightly, and the smile on his face was still a standard professional. Well, let's go out. Ji Qian closed his eyes, and stretched out his hand to pinch his eyebrows. He seemed very tired. Lin Luo was just about to leave, but he was stopped by him. Wait. Does President Ji have any more instructions? Send this suit to be washed. Okay, President Ji. The carpet was thick and soft, and the thin and long heels staggered and supported the weight of the whole body. Lin Luo leaned forward and stretched out his arms to reach for the coat. He was almost there when suddenly I fell straight down. I fell on Ji Qian, who closed his eyes and rested on the sofa. The cold fragrance of gentle men and the strong scent of male hormones rushed forward, making Lin Luo unable to find north. Ji Qian opened his eyes and looked down at the woman on his lap, with a cold light in his eyes, and said coldly, "I can't get up yet, do you want to die?" Fuck, President Ba's golden sentence finally came out, she is going to finish it. Lin Luo yelled badly in her heart. She was in a hurry and got up and climbed halfway. She fell down again with an unstable center of gravity. She knelt on the ground, and this time, her hand followed Ji Qian's thigh. Somewhere unspeakable. Lin Luo. Ji Qian. Seeing Ji Qian's expression terrifyingly cold, Lin Luo felt that she might end up worse than the original body. The desire to survive in panic made her reluctant to say, "Really big." Ji Qian, who was just about to pick her up and throw it out and fired her. "Get out, right away." The voice was so cold that Lin Luo's head would fall to the ground after another delay. The system prompts, points +3, current points 5. Oh, the so-called man. Hearing the hint of increasing points, Lin Luo felt Ji Qian's temperament in his heart, so he calmly adjusted his posture, found a support point, and prepared to get up. Halfway through, the door suddenly opened. "Mr. Ji, I bought you breakfast, I'm sorry." The company building in the early morning was empty. There was a man and a woman in the president's office. The man's suit fell to the ground, a few buttons were torn off the collar of his shirt, his eyes were deep and his voice was dumb. The woman wears an elegant suit to outline the body curve, kneels and sits in front of the man, with her hand still on the man's thigh, her delicate face is crimson and charming. I seemed to hear a faint really loud outside the door just now. Zhang Chen, who had broken through all of this, felt that he was going to finish the game, and he wished to blind his eyes with the sandwich in his hand to save his life. Lin Luo stood up, picked up his coat, and said calmly, "Mr. Ji, I'm going to send the laundry." Then he stepped on his high heels without squinting and left. When passing by the door, he also greeted Zhang Chen by the way, "Mr. Zhang, good morning." As if nothing happened. "Morning, good morning." Zhang Chen. "In. What did you see just now?" "I didn't see anything." "Ah, that's good." Ji Qian put his two long legs on the coffee table in front of him, stretched out his hand to cover his forehead, closed his eyes, as if thinking about something. The Bluetooth headset worn on the right ear has a shallow white light on the switch indicator, which is not easy to detect in daylight. After Lin Luo took Ji Qian's suit jacket to the dry cleaning room inside the company, he stood downstairs and took a deep breath. It's so embarrassing, it's so shameless. She and Ji Qian were shameless. After adjusting my emotions, I was about to go back to the secretary's room. The phone rang suddenly, and when I picked up the call, there was a roar from the other end, Lin Luo. Now Jia he really wants to hide me. I still have a 3-year contract with Jia he, you say what should I do for these 3 years? After 3 years I will be a 21-year-old woman. Lin. 21 years old. Old woman. Falling Temples jumped, suppressing a messy meal, and said with good words, "Igs you, I'm still at work now, and I will talk to you when I get off work." Say. Who are you lie to? I obviously saw you standing downstairs in the company and doing nothing to do. Before, I was so coaxed by you. Now if something goes wrong, you will get rid of me, right? With a roar, Lin Luo's brain hurts. He hung up the phone and turned around to see that a little girl with curly hair in a short skirt and a color palette was walking towards her angrily. As soon as he walked to her, he raised his hand and slapped her on the face. Fortunately, Lin Luo quickly grabbed her wrist and said coldly, "Igs you, don't make trouble with me. If you dare to make trouble, I dare to let the security guard throw you out." "Het, Lin Luo, I took a bite of Sister Ai Shui before. Now I have no use value, so I must throw me out, right?" Ai Shui snorted coldly, "You won't help me solve this problem today. I'll go tell Ji Qian who the is behind me." "You go." Lin Luo looked cold, unmoved, "The big deal is that I was fired. Where can I find a job with a monthly salary of 10,000? But you don't want to make your chat history public in this life. The entertainment industry is mixed up. You shameless." Ai Shui's lips trembled with anger, but she couldn't hold back a word of refutation for a long time. The little girl is not too old, and she is not a big evil person, but she is probably died too much, and the dying cream is in her mind. She is noisy, stupid, because she is about the same age as Xu Qingqing and was born as a child star. Innocently used as a gun by the original owner. Who is Xu Qingqing? Ji Qian holds the little white flower in his hand and puts it on the apex of his heart. Although that book hadn't written that the male and female lead was a together, and I didn't see how to spoil it, but the copywriter said that anyway. After this red carpet accident, Lin Luo got worse. Ji Qian, who seemed to be ignoring Lin Luo's various contrived behaviors in Ji Lao's face, also started investigating the truth of Xu Qingqing's repeated accidents, and then brought out the original owner and directly sued. Was sent into the fence. Iron doors, iron windows, iron chains, Luo didn't want to go in and eat wowhoodoo. So even if she really didn't like Ai Shui, she had to clean up the mess first. With Ji Qian's character, it's impossible to restart Ai Shui. If she can terminate the contract and let her find her own way, she would be thankful. She can be regarded as helping the original body to make compensation, and then the two will be cleaned up, so as not to catch fire. Moreover, the task assigned to her by the system is to obtain the favorability value from Ji Qian. This favorability is not a narrowly defined goodwill between men and women, but refers to Ji Qian's happiness index because of her, so she does not need to talk to Xu Qingqing. It might be more conducive to make him happy to match the two of them, and then speed up the task. Lin Luo took the idea in his heart, and recovered. Looking at the shivering little girl in front of him, she felt like a colorful poodle with her 4 limbs picked up. She wanted to bark but couldn't bark, and she was a little pitiful. "Do you still hit someone?" She was 1.68 meters tall and stepped on 8 centimeter high heels. She was a lot taller than Ai Shui. She looked down at her, her eyes were cold, her tone was flat, and her aura suppressed her. The Lin Luo that Ai Shui had seen before was as kind and enthusiastic as a sister. When I saw her in this battle, she was a little bit confused and shook her head honestly. Lin Luo just let go of her wrist. You should also know that since Ji Qian decides to hide you, it will never be possible for you to get Jia He's resources. All I can do is to help you apply for a contract termination. And then you take the contract cancellation letter, and why do you want to go? The two are irrelevant. If you feel dissatisfied, the big deal will be broken. Anyway, I'm a little secretary, so I'm able to bear this, and barefoot is not afraid to wear it. Shoes, don't you understand? Ai Shui nodded blankly. Also, if you still want to be in the entertainment industry, you can stop fighting with Shu Qingqing. If you can't do this, I can't help you. Ai Shui frowned in embarrassment, weighed for a long time, and finally nodded reluctantly, but still unwilling to say, what about you? Did you just let Shu Qingqing go? Lin Luo laughed, I can't let her go. She is a popular female star, and I am the little secretary of the pantry, and I can't get it together. Didn't you say that you like Ji Qian? Didn't you say that Shu Qingqing knew all day to pretend to be innocent and seduce Ji Qian? If you don't overthrow Shu Qingqing, how do you marry Ji Qian? Ai Shui always feels where something is wrong, but her brain capacity is not enough to support her thinking deeper. When Lin Luo heard this, he lowered his head and stared at the toe of his shoes, sneered and disdainfully said, I want to marry Ji Qian if I have something wrong. As soon as the voice fell, the cold and sharp mechanical sound came to my mind, the system prompts, points 10, current points 15. Lin Luo stiffened and turned his head. Ji Qian, who had changed into a dark grey suit, was standing behind the revolving door. His black shirt was neatly tied to the top one. The exquisite and gorgeous golden buttons just stuck in his Adam's apple, looking deeply abstinent. But this time Lin Luo didn't want to prostitute him, she only cared about how much he heard. Ji Qian walked out along the revolving glass door expressionlessly, and behind him was Zhang Chen with a face full of words, you are finished, and the shingled glass was slashed across, like a revolving lantern. Reflected Lin Luo's face as grey as death. Ji Qian walked to her and stood still. His net height was 1.86 meters, and he was 1.88 meters tall after putting on leather shoes. He could just look down at her. His handsome and deep face was stained with chills, and he was condescending. What do you mean by something wrong? Want to marry me? His aura is strong, his complexion is not good, his voice is low and hard, and Lin Luo has a guilty conscience. He is trembling with shock, like a poor little chicken, completely no longer the elder sister's grandeur when he was educating Ai Shui. She wanted Ai Shui to help round the circle. She turned her head and saw that this person had escaped at first sight when she saw Ji Qian, so she had to turn her neck back and raised her head and smiled shyly at Ji Qian. Isn't it to blame Ji always for being too good? Ji Qian raised an eyebrow. Ji, has anyone ever said that you look like Tom Cruise when you were young? Also, look at your figure. If you want to enter the fashion industry, Matisse's reputation as the #1 male model can't be kept, not to mention that you were listed on the world's most influential youth list at a young age. Talented and handsome, 900 million girls across the country call your husband with sincerity, and a mediocre person like me really only dare to want to marry you if his brain is abnormal. After finishing speaking in one breath, without any hesitation or pause, Danfan's black and white eyes were dazzling, and his long eyelashes were flapped one by one, which made Ji Qian extremely comfortable. But the air pressure around his body was still extremely low by him, staring at Lin Luo blankly, and speaking coldly, since you know in your heart that you are not qualified to miss me, I hope you will speak and do things more appropriately in the future. Others think that you and me are unclear, causing me unnecessary trouble. The words were unpleasant, and the tone was not kind. The former Lin Luo had long since made his mother deny it, but as soon as a vicious belly was brewing, he heard a crisp +3. Okay, fine, boss, you want to save face, can you tell me if you are shunned? It does not exist. It is everyone's responsibility to maintain Jailing's flower personality. What else can we do except forgive him for his arrogance? Lin Luo nodded obediently, okay, President Ji. Fortunately, he didn't hear the conversation between her and Ai Shui before, otherwise he wouldn't be able to save her even if he smashed a rainbow street. When Ji Qian saw this, he didn't want to entangle her much, and took Zhang Chen away without looking back. Enter Rolls-Royce. Mr. Ji. Zhang Chen glanced at Ji Qian in the back seat from the rear-view mirror, hesitated for a moment or spoke, I don't know whether to say something or not. Say. Ji Qian was busy knocking on the keyboard of his notebook, without lifting his head. Then what? I think Secretary Lin has some other thoughts. Ji Qian stopped his hand movement, raised his head, and raised his eyebrows. Zhang Chen saw this expression in the rear-view mirror and immediately explained, Secretary Lin was wrong before. She obviously smiled nicely to others. She only loves to challenge you. When she sees you are like a firecracker, I have been wondering why, but today. After speaking for a while, Ji Qian gave him a blank look, uninterested, and prepared to bow his head to continue sending emails. Seeing the failure of selling Guanzi, Zhang Chen hurriedly continued, that's right, I think Secretary Lin is her, she may be unruly towards the president. Okay. Seeing Ji Qian's interest, Zhang Chen was greatly encouraged and began to talk endlessly, look, last time you let me drive Secretary Lin into the water, she changed after she came back from sick leave. In the past, she changed her way to make you angry, but now she changes her way to make you happy. So I think her previous actions were deliberate, just to get your attention from President Ji. However, after falling into the water, she felt useless, so she changed her tactics. Begin to follow the route of tenderness and affection. But Mr. Ji, let me tell you that this kind of woman is undesirable. The more beautiful a woman is, the more deceitful. Zhang Chen, when is it your turn to make irresponsible remarks about me? Zhang Chen was as quiet as a chicken immediately. Ji Qian closed the computer, put it aside, and turned to look out the window. Caught his attention? Make him happy? Have a crush on him? I inexplicably remembered the way she was lying on his knees this morning. The weight of the whole person was clearly pressed up, but she did not feel heavy, soft, like a little fluffy fox. Lifting a small face, a little panicked, but forced to act calmly, the slightly raised and somewhat seductive Danfan eyes turned restlessly, and his eyelashes were flapped like this, so that he didn't let out a temper. Finally, the words were amazing. Really big. The way the woman caught his attention to make him happy was really unique. And I will find the key point. But what's the use? Just as she said herself, a person like her who is mediocre except for her appearance, dare to miss him only if her brain is abnormal. This is the reason why he has been reluctant to find a female secretary. A man like him is too attractive and too easy to indulge these little girls. Even if his behavior is self-sufficient enough, he can't hold back the little girl's secret promise. I still have to slowly find a chance to change her job. The author has something to say, later. Luo, President Ji, I want to resign. Mr. Ji, let's talk about it, why are you dissatisfied, do you want to get a bonus or a promotion? Is the annual leave 360 days a year appropriate? 5 free outbound tours are also included. After that, Luo, Ji and I are always innocent. President Ji, no. We are not innocent. Later. Luo, President Ji, don't worry, I really have no idea about you. President Ji, don't you just want to get caught up? Good woman, you did it, come on. Luo, crooked, demon spirit. Ji read mind. President, after I was really fragrant, I realized that my wife didn't have me in her heart. Ji Qian is a platooned person, and a platooned person must have a platooned surface for everything. For example, a secretary has 4. When Lin Luo returned, the other 2 male secretaries had already arrived. One of them had a cup of coffee and was chatting about something. When Lin Luo came back, he quickly pretended to lower his head and flip through the information. Lin Luo didn't like to take care of this kind of broken-mouth man, and returned to his seat to work. She is now a Cinderella who has only 6,000 deposits but lives in an old house rented for 7,000 months. Without this salary, she would not survive, so in any case, she must work hard and keep her job. Jiahe Group was founded by Grandpa Ji Qian, and now it has become the largest consortium in Beijing for decades. 3 generations of the Ji family were single-passed. When the generation of Ji Qian's father died unexpectedly, only Ji Qian was left behind. Fortunately, he was upbeat. He returned to China after receiving a double degree from the world's first university at the age of 20. It only took 7. In just a few years, he established his own media empire and promoted the transformation of the traditional consortium of the Ji family. He was hailed as a business wizard. It is said that for so many years, there has been no deal that Ji Qian could not negotiate. Whether you want to get caught, or play out of your routine, Ji Qian always seems to be able to see through your mind at a glance and then catch you. The lifeblood of the company, put all the conditions to your bottom line in order to maximize your own interests. Never fail. So much so that someone said that from the moment you sat opposite Ji Qian, you were naked, and even the flesh and bones would be stripped off. In his eyes, only your brain waves. However, Lin Luo felt that the rumors were all farting, so he was so mad and affectionate that he was smashed by her today, knowing that he is a simple baby, and he would believe whatever others said. Rumors. Lin Luo was slandering Ji Qian in her heart, and her work was not lost. The new program plan she just sent was going to win some international brand investment. She translated it first if she had nothing else at hand, in case she needed it. Ji Qian didn't come back until the end of get off work, and Lin Luo went home as soon as he packed up. Anyway, the secretary doesn't talk about performance, so who can show overtime? In the Jiahe Group's inner ring, the house that Lin Luo rented was outside the 4th Ring Road. It was the evening rush hour after get off work. When he got home, it was already dark. Lin Luo took out his mobile phone and turned on the flashlight, and walked upstairs step by step. If she hadn't participated in 18 variety shows in her previous life, she would have been more prudent in practice, and she would not be able to survive this day. But is there any way? In the capital, it is not easy to rent such a 2-bedroom and 1 hall at this price. It is not important at all that the corridor lights are broken. The high heels stepped on the concrete floor and made a puff-puff sound. The phone's light was pale and white, and a little oozing. Lin Luo lowered his head in his bag and took the key, but a black figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Ah! Lin Luo smashed the bag with a scream. Lin Luo, are you crazy? It was the voice of an ant. Lin Luo moved the light up, the pale light shone on the ant's fierce face. Lin Luo almost didn't scare the stairs down. Zhao! Aunt Zhao, why are you here? I'll come over and collect the rent from the house above. Lin Luo breathed a sigh of relief, but luckily it wasn't her who took her. By the way, remind you. Hey, Lin Luo's heart came up again. You should pay the rent for the next quarter at the end of next month, and the rent will increase by 10%. Lin Luo has never rented a house in his life, and doesn't know the landlord's words are reasonable or unreasonable, so he nodded, okay. Ant's angle looks too scary. We don't know what the rent is, and we dare not ask. When the landlord's aunt was about to talk, Lin Luo's phone suddenly turned on, and 3 big words flashed on the screen. Ji Qian. Lin Luo, go back to the company immediately, no delay. 2. Trash president, not polite. The tone sounds serious. What's wrong? Can't go wrong, her job is still in the hands of Ji Qian. So Lin Luli said, "Auntie, I have something to do here. Let's go now. The corridor is dark. Please pay attention. Goodbye." He went downstairs and rode on the little electric donkey and hurried to the company. When he rushed to the president's office, Ji Qian was sitting at his desk, slowly flipping through a file, and Zhang Chen also quietly printed the information with a look of time. "Mr. Ji, is there anything wrong?" Lin Luo stood at the door, cuz he knocked on the door frame. Hearing the sound, Ji Qian raised his eyes and glanced at her, then lowered his head and continued to flip through the documents. "This translation, did you do?" "Yes. But only a half of them have been translated at the moment." Lin Luo was sure that there would be nothing wrong with his professional level, so he was not nervous at all. "You can speak French?" "Yes. There are also simple Italian and Japanese. After all, she is Zhen Zherba, who often graduated from the Ivy League. She has also done 6 or 7 grades in variety shows abroad, and she can't speak foreign languages, and I'm sorry for her beauty." "Very good." Ji Qian threw the folder on the table. "French is very authentic, professional language is not wrong, and the translation is very good. Thank Mr. Ji. So you have to translate all this plan today before leaving, get off work. Why, what's your opinion?" Ji Qian leaned back in his chair, tapped the tabletop with his fingers, raised his eyebrows, and looked at her. "No, don't worry, I will finish the task soon." Lin Luo's attitude was very correct, and his professional smirk became more realistic. "Oh, peel off the skin, call back the beautiful female secretary who has been off work at night, and I don't know what Anne is thinking. You sit there." Ji Qian pointed to the coffee table and sofa. "There are still areas that need to be changed in the plan, so it's easier to communicate." "Okay, President Ji. To live in the same room is to covet her beauty. Zhang Chen, go and see how the progress of Love Weekend is going. The recording will start the day after tomorrow. I don't want any mistakes." "Okay, President Ji. We have to distract others. This season Qian is absolutely ill-intentioned, don't have a plan, decently, and dressed as a beast." "Excuse me, Secretary Lin, you just came to get the files and stood there staring at me. Do you think it's too early?" Ji Qian tapped the folder impatiently. "Ah, no." Lin Luo returned to his senses and even stepped forward to receive the information. Just walked to the desk. Ji Qian suddenly slanted his lips and smiled. "Don't tell me, just now you thought I was good looking, so I was fascinated by it. Mr. Ji, this was all discovered by you." He lowered his head slightly, and after running around, a strand of broken hair fell from his meticulously tied hair, which fell on his cheeks that were blushed by the wind while riding a small electric donkey. Points +1. Classmate Lin Luo, who never forgets his task of dressing a book, gritted her teeth in her heart. Ji Qian's narcissistic virtue, she is afraid that one day he will accidentally die when he looks in the mirror. Ji Qian originally wanted to give her a few words. Seeing her like this, she suddenly took it back. It was not easy for the little girl. How shy to see how her face was red. "It's time to hurt people anymore. So the words came to my lips, if it looks good, just look at it again, and then go back and concentrate on work." Lin Luo studied English and French at a young age, very authentic and proficient, and her own major is media, and she has been in the entertainment industry for so many years. She understands professional terms, so this job is handy. In the previous life, although she was not good at singing and dancing, she was stepped on as a vase by the draft only once, and that time she was smashed by her fans with her academic qualifications and various skills, and she was talented since then. People set up to stand tall. Lin Luo cherished her original glory while burying her head in coolies. The night outside was heavy, and the indoor lighting was the most eye-catching light yellow, covering her white and delicate face, enveloping her with a warm and feminine beauty. The curled long eyelashes and sharp chin also seemed gentle. The broken hair was pinned behind her ears, revealing small ears with shiny earlobes and a small pierced ear, but she did not wear earrings. Ji Qian glanced inadvertently and found that she was actually quite beautiful, not less than the popular female artists under his men, and even more natural and charming. Why did you find her annoying before? Ji Qian lowered his head, immersed in the work in his hands, no longer thinking about it. Time passed unconsciously, and Lin Luo stretched out, "Oh, I'm finally done, I'm so tired, I'm so tired." Ji Qian was caught in the middle, and the word mother was deeply swallowed back. Ji Qian caught a glimpse of her little guilty expression when she stopped talking, unconsciously curled the corners of her lips, and looked down at her watch. Why hasn't Zhang Chen come back? Lin Luo did not forget to play an elegant and decent dogleg at any time, and immediately took over. Ji always has something to tell me the same. Ji Qian didn't appreciate at all, and said lightly, "It's okay." Then, can I go home? Lin Luo cautiously asked. I want to go back to sleep. I can't afford aquamarine now. What should I do if my skin doesn't let me go back to sleep? I eat with my face. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not safe for you to go back as a girl. Ji Qian said and got up. Lin Luo, what? Is this because she feels that it is not safe for her to go home alone, so she should stay and continue working overtime until dawn? Brute! Is it safe to stay here alone? Before Lin Luo finished the complaint in his heart, Ji Qian said lightly, Zhang Chen hasn't returned. I'll take you home. The author has something to say, female goose, don't worry, you will soon be promoted and raise your salary to live a life of drunkenness and gold as before. There will be villas, luxury cars, and all kinds of special leather Birkins. Ji Qian didn't drive the Rolls-Royce that he usually uses for business, but replaced it with a bright yellow Lamborghini supercar. In fact, Lin Luo felt that this car was more in line with his temperament. Show. If it weren't for the system to prompt for points, she didn't know that a person who had been deeply abstinent on the surface could be so irritable inside. Thinking back about what he said tonight, Lin Luo even felt that his suit and leather shoes could no longer contain his show. The road at 3 o'clock in the morning is one of the rare unobstructed 24 hours a day in the capital, and Lamborghini swiftly drove outside the third ring road. The two were silent along the way. When the car drove into the community, Ji Qian raised his eyebrows dissatisfiedly, "You live here? It's too old." Lin Luo's heart jumped. The general president's opening remarks were followed by "I will give you a house." Oh my god, no one other than her father has ever given her a house. How should she want to return it? Can you look more elegant and decent if you refuse half push? The house is too big, why don't you find Auntie Zhongdian? Does the neighbor raise a puppet or a golden retriever, can I play it? It's a little away from the company and you don't have a car, so I hope you can pay attention and don't be late. I don't accept any reasons or excuses for work mistakes. Ji Qian's low and cold voice was very clear in the quiet night. Lin Luo's face. You deserve to be single for 27 years, and you deserve to be a male protagonist. Don't worry, President Ji, I have a transportation tool, my little e-donkey. Ji Qian frowned slightly, little e-donkey. Lin Luo finally remembered her pink toot car, and she was a little worried, it's my battery car. I rely on it for commuting. I forgot to stay at the company. How can I go to work tomorrow morning? Taking a taxi, I will reimburse it. Ji Qian is still very reasonable. He asked the little girl to add the class. The car was driven by him to send people back, so he should be held responsible. Lin Luo was not touched at all, but I forgot to lock the little e-donkey. What should I do if I lose it overnight? Ji Qian saw her slightly frowned eyebrows through the rear-view mirror, as if he was really annoyed, and took out her phone helplessly. Zhang Chen, are you back to the company? Ride Lin Luo's battery car to her house. The pink one. Forgot to lock it. The address will be sent to you later. Regardless of what Zhang Chen's reaction was on the other end of the phone, Ji Qian hung up, and as soon as he turned his head, he ran into Sister Lin Luomi's eyes. Mr. Ji, you are such a kind person, you are really understanding, gentle and caring about your subordinates. You sent me back and helped me solve the problem of the e-donkey. I was so touched that I didn't know what to say. Sure enough, the good-looking people are not bad. I have misunderstood you by saying that you are superior and unkind. You are very nice, really. Lin Luo's eyes are beautiful, black and white, with long and curled eyelashes, staring straight at him, flickering and flickering, looking innocent and sincere. Points +2. Points 1. Without letting go of any opportunity, Lin Luo, who is ready to compliment Ji Qian anytime and anywhere, is a little dazed. What's the matter, why did he go back? Friendly reminds the host that there is a suspicion of sending a good card, which triggers negative emotions in the strategy task. Really a sensitive and fragile old man. Lin Luo turned his head in silence, looked out of the car window, and suddenly reacted something wrong. Why did Ji Qian Ming wear a Bluetooth headset in his right ear and put his mobile phone to his left ear when he made a call? But she didn't ask. It's normal for a person like him to have many quirks. Ji Qian didn't speak anymore. The two people were silent in the narrow sports car. 10 minutes later, Ji Qian's cell phone rang, and as soon as he was connected, a heart-piercing howling came. Mr. Ji. I was hit by a car while riding a small electric donkey. Now the ambulance is on the way, take care of yourself when I am away. Zhang Chen was hit by a drunk driving bicycle late at night. His right leg and arm were scratched, and his right ankle was chopped and swollen. Then he asked the doctor to put an 800-meter thick plaster on him. When he saw Ji Qian was in tears. Mr. Ji, is it a work injury? Looking at Zhang Chen's bitter and enmity face, Ji Qian's temple jumped, forget it. Thank Mr. Ji, you are the best, okay. Lin Luo behind Ji Qian, saw that his slender, white and well-defined hands were already violent, but he could not help but sigh that Ji always spoiled his little secretary duck. Duck. Incredible. But Mr. Ji, I'm probably going to survive this injury for a while, what about my job? Who will take care of you? Lin Luo had a bad feeling as soon as he said this. Sure enough, Ji Qian turned sideways, revealing her figure. When Zhang Chen saw her, his eyes lit up, then frowned, and finally he made a helpless compromise, then Secretary Linear. Although she has a bad heart to confuse the Lord, her level of business is still good, and the President's move just now is a bright hint, and he has to follow the President's intention. Zhang Chen had a premonition that he would fall out of favor. So after an inexplicable tossing all night, Zhang Chen was injured at work and Lin Luo's little donkey was sent to the repair shop. Ji Qian drove that dazzling supercar back and forth several times, and finally promised Lin Luo reimbursement. The taxi fare and work 2 hours late, everyone went back to each house to sleep. When the next morning, when she and Ji Qian were 2 hours late at the same time and announced that she had temporarily become his personal secretary, the entire 52nd floor fell into a strange and ambiguous atmosphere. The moment she closed the office door, she clearly heard Wang Wei say, "Oh, female secretary is good." The tone is very frivolous, and the voice is very low, just right for her to hear. Lin Luo hooked up the corner of his mouth mockingly, and closed the door with a patter. People who are rotten in the swamp see sludge. As soon as he closed the door, Ji Qian's voice came from behind him. Have you rested? You did a great job last night. Toss you so late, you have worked hard. Let's go back to Zhang Chen to get the money. His well-knotted fingers were wearing a tie near the neckline, and his voice was dumb because he hadn't rested for several days. Suddenly, Lin Luo felt that he really didn't blame others for looking like sludge, and this full of romantic tyrant's sense of sight in the morning after the incident could not be explained. In order to break this embarrassment, Lin Luo pretended that he really came to work seriously. President Ji, your itinerary this afternoon is blank. Do you have any other arrangements? Ji Qian finally changed a tie he was satisfied with, and turned his head to look at Lin Luo. Go to the hospital and pick up Miss Xu. Lin Luo let out a cry in his heart. After wearing it for several days, he is finally about to meet with the hostess of the original text. The author has something to say, duck. In the next chapter, we will start to develop our career line when we fall, return to the entertainment circle, attract money to make money, marry the boss, and embark on the pinnacle of life. Points plus 10, the current points are 3 points. Congratulations to the host finally returning to the positive value. The system will sprinkle flowers for you, okay. When the male mechanical sound said sa hua hua and mamita, Lin Luo really got goosebumps. After seeing the subtle and weird eyes of director Xie and Zhang Tong, they got goosebumps again. Picked it up. Forget it, if you are alive, who doesn't stand up to whom? She had been standing on the right back of Ji Qian. He lowered his head slightly, unable to see the expression, and did not know whether he was satisfied with her answer, only saw the finger he put on the plan was struck. And then heard 3 short words. 200,000. Okay. 200,000 one issue. Hiss. The 3 people present collectively took a breath. To be honest, the 200,000 one issue is actually not expensive. Originally, it was the price she said for an oral broadcast, but that was based on her being a high-profile flow artist. For her current lack of reputation, there is no flow. For the passerby, the 10,000 one issue is counted as a facetoffice, and many still enter the team with money. So this 200,000 issue is very generous. Lin Luo secretly calculated that she could pay a down payment for a small apartment in the capital after 1 season. She immediately looked at Ji Qian's back like her old father, with sincere affection. Blurted out, I am willing to dedicate everything I have to President Ji. Really, my second-born parents want to kneel down and call you father. Ji Qian twitched the corners of his mouth imperceptibly, and more than 2 million could be so excited that he was a little cute. Points plus 1. This time it was funded by Jiahe Investment. The artists used by Jiahe were broadcast on Jiahe's portal, and the money earned was also in Jiahe's hands. So Ji Qian said what he said. Director Xie did not refute at all. The contract is signed. After Xu Qingqing learned that Lin Luo was temporarily substituted into Love Weekend, he clapped his hands and shouted, "It's great to have Sister Luo Luo with me. The first time I did a variety show, I was very nervous, and Sister Luo Luo made me relax a lot." Lin Luo sighed inwardly, "Silly girl, if this is your original Sister Luo Luo, you will be rubbed on the ground." Everything went well, but in the end it was stuck on the issue of Lin Luo's identity. The artists say that the amateur male guest is also a world-class photographer, and the original female guest is a famous painter in Northern Europe. Enough, here in Lin Luo. The 996 social animals in the family? It's too sad. When Director Xie raised this question, Ji Qi raised an eyebrow in confusion. Just say she is an employee of Jiahe, is there any problem? The personality of elite white-collar workers is actually pretty good. Director Xie nodded after thinking about it, then said it as a corporate executive. Ji Qian stood up, buttoned his suit, and said lightly, "No, just say it's my secretary, that's enough." Then left with Lin Luo. Isn't Ji Qian's personal secretary a few grades higher than those bad street group executives? Joke. With years of professionalism, Lin Luo arrived at the lakeside villa of the program group at around 5 in the morning. When she got out of the taxi, a nanny car just passed by her and stopped at the door of the villa. Several assistants and stylists were carrying large bags and cuddling a tall woman and walking in. When the woman got out of the car, she just caught a glimpse of her getting off the taxi, with a hint of disdain in her glamorous eyes. It's Chihua. The reason why Lin Luo was so clear was that the original body had had a feast with Chihua in his memory, and the other was that his style was exactly the same as the vicious female partner in the original text. Pretentious, arrogant, coquettish, domineering, cruel. And he was thinking of the current wife. After all, eating this bowl of rice in the entertainment industry is too tiring and unstable. Marrying a handsome, rich, and powerful young man, and then living the life of a wealthy wife who does not touch the sun is the ultimate dream of many Bensan female artists. It's a pity that dreams are dreams after all, and a female partner is a female partner after all. Lin Luo thought of why it's hard for a female partner to be a female partner, and didn't care about her. He walked in with a small vintage suitcase from LV. Just stay for 20 or 30 hours in total, making it as tired as moving? Coordinator Zhang knew that she was Ji Qian's, and when he saw her, he smiled politely, "Miss Lin, let's go over there and put on makeup first. We will start our first walk at 7 o'clock on time." "Okay." Lin Luo sat down 2 tables away from Chi Hua, took out his cosmetic bag, and began to base himself. Compared with Chi Hua, who is surrounded by a large group of people doing hair, makeup, and manicure 3-pronged approach, it looks a bit lonely. The makeup artist was applying concealer to Chi Hua. She lifted her eyelids, looked at Lin Luo obliquely in the mirror, and then chuckled lightly, "Oh, Miss Lin doesn't even have a stylist? Do you have to make up yourself? Xiao Mei, I don't need you to do anything here. You can put on makeup for Miss Lin first, it's pitiful." "No need." Before Xiao Mei answered, Lin Luo faintly refused, "I have good skin, not suitable for thick makeup. Xiao Mei is not suitable for me." "This means who has bad skin and thick makeup?" Chi Hua reached the mouth of the retort. After seeing Lin Luo's face, which was also flawless under the bright light of the LED, swallowed back, and changed to another sarcasm, "Miss Lin is very frugal. Valentino last spring and summer, are you still wearing it this year?" "Well, it's all casually worn anyway." Lin Luo didn't even look at Chi Hua from the beginning to the end, her expression was indifferent, and her tone of voice was casual, as if she didn't even look at Chi Hua as a newcomer at all, but she knew in her heart that she couldn't take out other clothes. Up. This dress was bought before the accident at the original owner's house. It's a 6-figure one. In the eyes of ordinary people, it's not a problem even if it is inherited from the ancestors. It just doesn't show up. It's not that Lin Luo didn't know the truth, but first she didn't intend to show up, and secondly, she didn't have the money to buy it. She didn't care much at first, but now she is ridiculed by such an irritating woman. In her last life, she was rich, handsome, and resourceful. When did she fall short on this kind of thing? Just as Lin Luo was ready to put on makeup, she suddenly heard, "Is Miss Lin Luo there?" She turned around and saw a little girl carrying a large suitcase and a coat hood, and a flat-headed girl. The cool girl said politely, "I'm Lin Luo, what can I do?" "Ah, you are Miss Lin. President Ji asked us to come over and make your styling." As soon as the little girl's voice fell, Xiao Mei and the others began to whisper, "Wow, it's Mr. Jimmy. Isn't Mrs. Jimmy only painting luxury shows and first-line artists? Why do you come here to give an amateur makeup?" The reason they were surprised and questioned was because Chi Hua couldn't hire Jimmy and couldn't afford to hire Jimmy, so Chi Hua's face was a bit ugly. After years of working in the entertainment industry, it was not that he could not match the real rich celebrities. This is the gap. I also thought that if it hadn't been for Lin Luo this little to make trouble, she would have slept until Ji Qian, and her heart became more resentful. It was not easy to wipe her face in public, but she only wrote down another note in her heart. Teacher Jimmy quickly started painting a coral makeup look for Lin Luo. Her bare face was at the level of 9 points upwards. Her skin was fair and delicate without any blemishes, her facial features were good, and her face was small. This color made others black. It will only make her skin clearer, with the freshly rolled water ripples, the whole person looks bright and smart, and Chi Hua, who has big waves and red lips, is a bit vulgar. Both of them are aggressive and beautiful, but Lin Luo took advantage of his youth and aura. As soon as he contrasted, the gap appeared. What makes Chi Hua invigorated is the coral dress that Jimmy brought to Lin Luo to change. It is a luxurious new style that just appeared on the Paris show. She asked the agent yesterday if she could borrow it. People expressed it euphemistically, even if she is a newcomer, she is not enough. She is not enough. Is Lin Luo enough for a little secretary? It's just that after Ji Qian's light, there is still a poor settlement in his bones. Thinking of this, she turned to Lin Luo, squinted her eyes, raised her red lips, and smiled. Miss Lin is so good looking, better looking than those of us who are entertainers. Oh, by the way, I will take a guest later entering the venue. What is Miss Lin going to do? Should I call another taxi or walk? He raised his eyebrows as he said, squeezing a high-pitched smile of compassion, why don't you borrow my car for a use? This face didn't make Lin Luo angry at all, it just made her feel heartbroken. How could this kind of IQ survive so many scenes as the second female? Not as good as the original owner. And what's wrong with walking? How environmentally friendly it is to walk, it will give you close-ups and close-ups of your back and legs when you walk, and it will also do special effects with your hair fluttering all over the screen. And be careful. Lin Luogong was about to be strong, and the little girl who came with Mr. Jimmy slapped her head and said, Miss Chi didn't say that, I almost forgot. Miss Lin is yours. A brand new car key, you can see it is a luxury car. The author has something to say, Mr. G, don't ask anything. Asking is rich, asking is short-sightedness, and asking is showing love. Luo Luo, today is a day for the rainbow fart sincerely. In the camera, a bright yellow Lamborghini is driving in from the faint morning light, and then a beautiful swinging tail steadily stops into the parking space, the sports car door opens, and a pair of straight and well-proportioned legs appear. The ankles are lined with lace-up high heels, slender and delicate, and then poked his head out, revealing a natural and flawless face. After getting out of the car, she walked towards the villa slowly. The wind of early summer drove her fluffy and natural curls, making her smile more vivid and bright. Barrage of Carnival. Director Xie directed each of the planes and kept saying, real-time subtitles, name and job introduction. Real-time special effects are in place. Just the pink heart. Legs, legs, and legs. Cut the close-up position of the legs. When Lin Luojia and secretary of the group president appeared on the screen of the live broadcast main channel, there was another wave of barrage immediately. She is actually my husband's secretary. Upstairs. Go away. My husband. And their husband, Ji Qian, was lying on the sofa at home, watching the 3MX3M live projection. The black silk nightgown was slightly opened, revealing the straight collarbone and strong muscle lines. He picked up the coffee, took a sip, and hooked the corner of his mouth. He knew that she would look good in this skirt, and his vision was never wrong. Points +1. After Lin Luo Leifeng entered the venue, he walked into the villa's door, and the Lin Luo divide on the live interface was also turned on. Because she was the lowest among the 8 guests, she ranked 7th in the order of appearance. Xu Qingqing and the others were already there when she walked in. Chi Hua's eyes were cold when she saw her. It's stinking, but it's all Ji Qian's charity. A little secretary is only marginalized among a group of artists, and she is embarrassed. As soon as she rolled her eyes halfway, Xu Qingqing, who was sitting opposite her, waved to the door, Sister Luo Luo is here, come sit down with me. He moved to the corner of the sofa, patted the place next to him lightly, and said, Sister Luo Luo is so beautiful today. Xu Qingqing was originally an innocent girl. Although Lin Luo had slapped Ai Shui behind her back, she treated her very well on the surface, and because she trusted Ji Qian, she also trusted Ji Qian's side. People are naturally more enthusiastic about forests. In Chi Hua's eyes, it became a white lotus who seduced Ji Qian and another coquettish who seduced Ji Qian was embarrassed, but she was very angry. Contrary to her, the barrage is hot, Press the head party +10086. Before this show, Xu Qingqing and Gu Xian just collaborated on a hot youth idol drama, because the CP is full of feelings, plus some specious revelations. Speculation about the relationship between the two is raging, sitting on a lot of true feelings. CP powder. In the book, Gu Xian really likes Xu Qingqing, but seeing Xu Qingqing's attitude, how does it seem interesting to Gu Xian? Lin Luo, who was aware of this problem, had an instinctive reaction that Ji Qian must not watch it. What if he gets jealous and is in a bad mood and deducts points? No, you must bring this crooked little white flower back. After a few people greeted them politely, they chatted in the living room, polite and awkward. Lin Luoan sat peacefully in her place, except for occasional yes, 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 and haha without saying a word, trying to reduce the sense of presence. The audience didn't think there was anything. There is not much traffic in the crossover, and the audience on the main channel is more willing to eat the melons of the popular artists. Chi Hua shrank on the sofa on the other side and didn't say a word. She rubbed her nails on her own, with a lazy and cold expression, carrying out her cold beauty personality. He rubbed her head and glanced at Lin Luo. Blew lightly towards her nails, and then said, I heard that Miss Lin is President Ji's personal secretary. The word next body was deliberately bitten a little hard. Lin Luo knew that she was about to engage in moths again, so he answered indifferently, yes. Speaking of all, we are all working for President Ji, but President Ji is too cold, we are not familiar with it, but Miss Lin should be familiar with it. Are you interested in speaking about President Ji? The fairy sister who is cold outside and hot inside. Lin Luo said twice in his heart, asking a female secretary to talk about her famous male boss in front of a national audience in a love variety show. What is your mind? She firmly believes that no matter what she says, Chi Hua can pick out the problem and discourage her. She didn't think she was too bad, but she simply didn't want to cause trouble, and she was about to decline, when she suddenly ding-dong. To post the task, please the host speak more than 100 words of praise for Ji Qian within 5 minutes. It cannot be repeated with the previous one. 10 points will be awarded for successful tasks and 20 points will be deducted for failed tasks. Lin Luo couldn't help cursing, and that was destined to be harmonious. Then he took a deep breath. In my heart, President Ji is the soul and belief of the entire Jiahe group. From the inside out, he exudes wisdom and charm that is different from ordinary people. He is very dedicated and responsible to every employee in the group. Although many people think that he is very cold, but in fact Ji is always a kind-hearted, gentle, and considerate person. When I was the most difficult time, he was like the lighthouse when I returned from the night sailing. It was dazzling and warm. People feel at ease. Narcissism, boredom, peeling, pulling. But I can't say that, hate. Ji Qian, who was changing his clothes, turned his head and looked at the screen when he heard this passage. When he saw the bright face with a sweet smile and admiring eyes, he lowered his head and smiled and fastened the last shirt button. The little girl is innocent, and he just helped her to support her. As for the worship of him so much? I just fastened the button and the phone rang. Hey! Ji Qian, what's the matter with your little secretary? Is that person she said you? And what's the matter with your spring-hearted voice?